So tomorrow is, who knows what Back to the Future Day is? Anyone? Dana? Oh, please. Yes, so there's this movie called Back to the Future, and there's three of them. And in the middle movie, the main character comes into the future, and tomorrow is the day that he is supposed to arrive in the future. So we're all excited for for all these wonderful things that will happen when Marty McFly arrives in the future. So along those lines, and because I just learned about this and we had a class work with this tool last block, I wanted to share with you Timeline.JS. This is kind of a way of presenting something along a timeline or rich media along a timeline in a completely online fashion. So I'm just going to go through my slide deck really quickly, or my timeline. I built this in Timeline.js so that you can kind of see some of the things you can do with it. And then I'll show you what it looks like to set up on the back. So first slide is a picture, and I've got some credits there, and I've got some text. And along the bottom here is this timeline where everything is. So you set up events, and they appear on the timeline, and you can make this timeline be at the bottom or at the top. And you can make it very tall if you want, or you can make it very small, and that you can set up on the initial Timeline.js page. So first event, the title slide, is October 21st, 2015 at 4:29 p.m. is when it's supposed to happen, when Marty McFly arrives in the future. Of course, when the movie came out, it was around July 3rd, 1985, which appears on my timeline as well down here. And when the movie originally, the first movie came out, it got a very bad review here in the LA Times. And this is a document that actually doesn't live in this presentation at all. It's being sucked in from somewhere else on the web, from I believe docstock.com. So you can you can embed documents in the timeline. So if you had a PDF or a news article that was in DocStock, or you uploaded to DocStock, you can have it appear in your own timeline. And of course, you can put animated GIFs or GIFs, depending on who you are and how you want to pronounce that, into your timeline. And of course, that appears right down here. And you can also embed sounds. So this is from SoundCloud. And this is the song Johnny Be Good, but I won't play it because the speakers are not quite working very well with the presentation today. But this is an example. I don't actually have a text title for this slide, so the sound takes up the entire almost the entire width of the slide, or the point. But as you can see, I have also got a background image as well that takes up the whole slide. You can also embed Google Maps. So this is just a regular map that I've embedded of one of the filming locations from the movie. This is the Doc Brown house from the movie. It's located in Pasadena, California. But you can zoom in and out of it, and you can put your own place markers on the Google map as long as you have a Google account. So you can embed that in the slide. Here again, I've got a background image as well that's also taken from the web. So pretty cool. And this is a slide with very little adornment. I've got no description text, but I do have the date written in and the title and just an image from the web. And this is actually a Wikipedia article. So I just took the URL from Wikipedia and put it into the spreadsheet, and this is what it gives me, so I can just link to it, so I can go straight to the Back to the Future disambiguation page. So there are several different types of media and links that you can put into the timeline tool. Here is one from Storify. I've never actually used the Storify tool, but this is an example. This is just a huge conversation that people were tweeting back and forth about Back to the Future. So if you have students who like to use Twitter, or you know people who use Twitter, or who want to use Storify, you can pull lots of different things in through Storify, through the Storify tool. Here's another SoundCloud, but this SoundCloud actually has text on it, so it shortens up the SoundCloud widget in the timeline slide. And here's an actual tweet. So this was posted on Twitter, and this is the tweet. I just take the URL from that that tweet or that Twitter post, and I put that into the spreadsheet, and this is what it came up with. It actually cited the source right there, and that's an actual live link to the actual tweet on Twitter, and it also kept the URL that the person had embedded in there. Of course, that's the background image that I put in there myself, so you can customize the background somewhat. And a YouTube video, you can embed YouTube and Vimeo in here, so those are the two of the bigger video sources online. But it comes through pretty clearly. You can also do block quotes, which I think is kind of nice, in the body of the text for your description there. I don't think I need any discovery services right there. One of the interesting things about Timeline.js, if I had played those songs back there, they would continue playing throughout the rest of the presentation. So if you have people presenting, so that would happen with the video, I believe, as well. But once you click one audio, the other audio goes off. And finally, Timeline.js documentation. This is, as I said, this is an online tool. It's completely online. You don't need to download anything. But you can go to timeline.nightlab.com in order to get the template and configure the template as well so that it looks like what you want it to look like. All right, that's 10 minutes. So yeah, Timeline.js, that's from the Northwestern University. They've got a few different online tools, including story maps and this timeline tool. The setup for all of that you saw is pretty easy. All I had to do is go into a template, a Google Docs template. Let me make that a little bit bigger. And they have these predefined fields. And the only fields you really need to fill out are this initial year and then a headline or text. And those are the only two requirements you need. Now that would be a very basic slide, but that's all you need. You don't need to fill out the date and the month and the time, or even a closing date, or even the display date. It looks a little nicer and can provide a little bit more information if you do fill those out, of course. But pretty much all you have to do is fill in these cells in the spreadsheet to populate the fields. For example, this media is that main picture or sound or video file that you do, and the Timeline.js website actually has a list of sites and forms that you can, sites and media that the URLs will be recognized in. Of course, media credit, because we always want to cite our sources, and that's the caption so that appears underneath the media. Let's go back and back. So that caption that appears underneath the media and is also a link if you've embedded the link in there so that you can find the source easily online. And then a thumbnail that will appear in the very bottom of the timeline. And this type, that actually tells you if it's a title slide, so the first slide. Otherwise, your slides will appear in chronological order. So and that chronology is set here. Let's see, anything else to show? You can choose a background color or a background image. You cannot choose a background video to have it look really high-tech. Just a background image that's already on the web or background color. Any questions?
So I would start by going to...
Good question. You go to timeline.nightlab.com.
Okay. And where does that take me?
And that takes you to this page right here. Okay. So you'd say, I want to make a timeline. And so see, it zoomed down there. Okay. So you say, get the spreadsheet template, and that opens up the template. Okay. If you're signed into Google Docs, it opens that up in your own Google Docs so that you can then change the name, or you can use the template, and then in your own Google Docs, you can see all of these examples that they've already got in there, and so you can kind of get a feel for it without actually committing. So you fill this out with your own information, and then you come back to, I should probably look at my own screen. So So then you publish that spreadsheet to the web so that everybody could see that spreadsheet. And then you paste the URL in there and you give it some parameters. So this is how big the timeline portion will be, that whitish space that was towards the bottom, how thick it will be on the screen. And you can do some other settings as well, which I generally didn't play much with. And then it gives you this URL, which you can then put in your own Canvas course or in a web page, or you can actually just take part of and just display it on as a web page on its own. Did that more or less answer your question? Okay, is there something else I can get at, or?
Well, if I'm having, groups of students do it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to figure out what instructions I would give them.
Ah, okay. I actually have a set of instructions that I created, and I'm happy to send those to you.
Great.
If you want to email me, actually just write email Weston on the back of that, and then I will send you the instructions that we used. Yeah, so I will send you some instructions that I gave the students and some hints. Some students they did just a plain old Google search. They said images.google.com. Cats. Let's look up cats. That's pretty safe. So they would click on that, and they would choose this URL, and they put that in their timeline, and that broke it. That made it so it didn't work. So if you were to use the timeline and you wanted to use this image, you'd want to click View Image and paste that link, that URL, into the timeline. So that was one of the big mistakes that I saw students make. Another mistake that students made, and I'll just ask you what you think. Let's say I want to put a non-modern year in. Let's say I want to go before the year 0. What would I do? What should I do? What do you think? Negative number. Yeah, so you could just put a negative, a minus there, and that does it. Pretty intuitive, but not quite. Another thing, another mistake that some students made is they put the year, they put October in there, or they would put 3rd, and that doesn't work. That also breaks it. So you need numerals in there, and only numerals, representing the month, day, and year, and the time. Other questions? I think this is a pretty cool tool, and it's a little bit more, I think, exciting and engaging than a regular PowerPoint might be. And the fact that you can have multiple students working on the timeline, and these dates can be in any order, so it doesn't even matter what order the students put the dates in there. The only thing you'd probably want multiple groups of students to do, unless if you wanted to give this to them as an assignment, is to probably have them put their initials, perhaps in the text field, or perhaps in one of the other columns of the spreadsheet. And that way you would know which entries were theirs, and you could contact them directly if they had some misinformation or had something that needed to be improved with them. Yes. Yep. An entire class was working on it. I haven't gone back to check and see how well they did. But the first day that they worked on that was when I noticed they had copied some malformed links into the spreadsheet, and so their pictures weren't showing up. But we corrected that, and I think they got it. So I'm excited to see how well they did. And they were just working on this last block. So, other questions? Okay, thank you very much for coming. Please take a cookie or two on your way out. And happy Back to the Future Day tomorrow. Thanks.
I know what to email you.
Oh, okay. I never know. I always need something to remind me of stuff to do. So
I don't know. Email Wester.
That's a good idea.
Thanks.
Oh, and be sure to stop by the Cat Lab tomorrow. We're going to be screening Back to the Future movies all day.
So Weston, how many timeline programs are there? I mean, is this a pretty standard approach to putting together a timeline as a group?
That's a good question. There are a number. There are several online websites that will do this. The reason I kind of like Timeline.JS is because they've made their code open source. So you can actually go in and you can download it for yourself and actually change it and adapt it to however you want. This is also made by a university that specializes, or I think the lab actually specializes in journalism. So it's a little bit more geared towards presentation and disseminating information than some of the other tools are. There's one that I learned about last year, almost exactly last year, in October, called TimeStream, and it's similar, but it's a program you download onto your computer and you put stuff into it, and you can put like PDFs in there and links to stuff. But then you have to compile it, and if you want to share that TimeStream document, you have to have it stored on a server or something. It's a little bit more complicated to use, but I think the advantage is if you have no internet access, you can't really do this.
Right.
Whereas with TimeStream, you have no internet access, you're not up a creek, because you can still use it, and you can still generate the timeline file that then you can turn into a web page, which just displays in a web browser.
But
And
it's not collaborative. You couldn't have
it
whole classes
yeah.
on
It's not as collaborative,
Yeah.
but yeah, which is really cool. I mean, it just uses Google Docs, and Google is now probably at the point where they're not going to turn off Google Docs like they have done with many other services in the past.
Yeah,
So
that's good. I mean, it seems perfect for our history classes, and I know
yeah,
the
this is
visual
a really good.
resources
Yeah.
list, there's a lot of talk about timelining, sort of like this verb, like classes timelining ideas, and I mean, it's such a visual way to situate what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and with some of the customizations, because you can actually download the source code, and even just in the URL right here, you can change stuff. So right now this height is 750 right down here. I'm sorry, Dana. You can come up and join us if you want. You can actually make this into say, let's make that 900, and that totally minimizes this even more, so that so that the top is more maximized. And you can make put the timeline at the top. So now the timeline's at the top. And so just within the URL, you've got parameters that you can adjust. There are examples at Timeline at the Night Labs. You're welcome, Dana. Thanks for coming. That there are examples where one of the people actually put the timeline on the side and reconfigured it so it looked completely different. So students can actually customize this so it looks a little bit different and more individual. And besides, I mean, you can change the background slide colors, and if you've got different epics or time periods that you wanted to talk about, or different artists, even they could be different to kind of pull continuity and differentiate.
I mean, yeah, it's a way to connect student presentations that were assembled completely independently, right? Like in one place. So it's cool.
Yep.
Take that back. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Have a good evening.
Yes, grab a couple.